It's so funny, funny what you do, honey, honey, what you do, what you mean to me. And you know, honey, honey.
Hey fans, welcome to the UR Business Network. I'm Rob Kaufman, producer here, sitting here at the first episode of Funny Business with the Bill Connolly. Excuse me. I'm a radio host. So this is your first time on the radio, huh?
It is my first time on the radio, and I'm very excited. The reason I had to call myself the Bill Connolly is because there's so many of us. So hopefully this will help differentiate me a little bit.
Yeah. Are they all comedians too?
Well, there's one particularly famous one who I believe was in Reservoir Dogs. Scottish comedian Billy Connolly. Yeah. Who I'm often compared to, not as a good comedian, but as a result in a Google search.
Have you ever thought about going by a different name?
Somebody asked me that one time, and I have thought about it, but I don't know what that name would be, so I've just kept it.
There's not many choices, yeah.
Yeah, there's not many choices that would look good for,
Willie?
For me, Willie. Will, I'm a big fan of Will Smith, so I go by Will sometimes.
His full name's actually Willard, not William.
Willard Smith.
Yeah, you could be Willard Connolly.
Yeah, maybe we'll get to that at some point.
Yeah. But Billy is he taken already?
That's what my family goes by, but or that's what my family calls me. But that's also what the comedian goes by as well.
What about just going by a crazy fake name?
Yeah, well, Will Jensen is a good name that I go with sometimes when I'm out trying to play a character. I just made it up. Oh. Will Jensen. We're really getting into some riveting material here to start.
Well, I mean, I wish I could come up with a fake name for myself because my dad hates the fact that I do radio shows
under your own name.
Oh yeah, we have the same name, so that's why.
Oh yeah. I've seen some of your stuff.
Oh,
so.
Yeah, so is he. So what's the show going to be about? Like, you intend to have some laughs here?
Yeah, so, to give everybody a synopsis of what the show's going to be about, again, I'm really excited. As you can tell, I've never done a radio show before. Rob is helping me in producing this, and, asked him to be on here with me because he knows what the hell's going on, and so, he's sort of helping me through this, but basically, my background is as a marketer and as a comedian. I'm a marketer and a consultant in the day, and then at night I perform improv comedy. And for a long time, I sort of saw those two worlds as completely different, my hobby and my work. But they're really not as different as they first appear. There's a lot of connection that can be made there. And so that's what I'm hoping to do with this show, is to find the connection between everything I've learned from doing comedy and how it has helped me to become a better business person.
Well, comedy is a business.
It absolutely is a business, and part of what we're going to do is I look forward to having some guests on here. Some are going to be from industry, some are going to be from the world of comedy, but the people who are good at comedy, they make it their business. It's something that you work extremely hard at, and I see that in just performing and watching people who are trying to make it as comedians. It's probably one of the hardest jobs that you can do.
Yeah, they are their own companies.
They are their own companies, and everyone is their own company. And that's sort of the other basis for this show is helping people to realize that they have to take control of their careers, and their lives, and they can't rely on what they have in their resume, but they need to be able to connect with people. I often say that people buy from people, and that's true in anything. People still run the world, so to be successful at whatever you're trying to do, you have to be able to relate to somebody. You can't hide behind a computer, and that's what's happening more and more in the world today.
Absolutely, yeah. You have to be able to relate to people to make sales, and also that's what comedians do. The basis of what they're doing is trying to relate to people.
Absolutely. I mean, if you think of the funniest comedians and the funniest jokes that are out there, it's people. It's when a comedian says something and you're like, oh my gosh, I never thought of it that way.
Observational stuff.
It's observational,
What's the deal with that?
Yeah, that's the Seinfeld, the classic Seinfeld. But it's funny because there's an article recently in the New York Times about how Seinfeld is one of the most crazy, dedicated comedians. Constantly working on his craft. and it's all that observational stuff, honestly. And that's, again, that's how you make sales, like you said. And that's where I started to see the connection between the two, is when I started doing comedy, my ability to network with people, or, to go up to somebody who I'd never met before and to generate a conversation with them, it went way higher. It used to be something that would terrify me. And now, you bomb in front of a few audiences, and going up to somebody at a networking event or approaching someone at a bar and, trying to generate a relationship, that's not intimidating to you anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot you can learn from it.
That is true, yeah. If you think about it, really, if you go in expecting to bomb anyway,
Yep.
you can't do that bad.
You can't do that bad, and something that I always tell myself is that there's always someone worse than you, which I guess is kind of probably a negative way to look at it, but
no, that's perfectly fine.
But I think I think it really helps to get through it, because it's true. There's always going to be someone who's better than me, and there's always going to be somebody who's worse than me, and
way worse. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, way worse. And at the end of the day, as long as I'm somewhere in the middle, it's not going to change anyone's life. At the end of the day, if I bomb, I'm still going to wake up. To relate that back to marketing, I saw I was in Florida for a conference recently, and I saw this guy, Jeffrey Hazlett, who used to be the chief marketing officer of Kodak, Eastman Kodak, the camera company. And he had this whole story about how he had spent multi-million dollars on this ad campaign for their new printer. And basically the idea was they're going to have in all these movie theaters this commercial where it was kind of like the old Office Space where they smash the printer with the sledgehammer. It was like that. They were smashing the competitor's printer with a sledgehammer, and then at the end it was like, buy these new Eastman Kodak printers, text this number right now and you'll get 20% off. And it tested really well. They rolled it out in all over the country, these movie theaters, spent millions of dollars on it. And the next day or the next week, they looked at the stats from it, and they had only had 2 orders the entire country. And it was because when you go into a movie theater, the first thing you do is turn your phone off. So having a text-based advertisement wasn't necessarily the best way to go.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't at all. And, the whole point of it, though, is he said at the end, which I thought was a great quote, is it sucked. They lost a lot of money. Somebody might have lost their job from it. But at the end of the day, nobody died. And that's kind of what I want to bring to this show, and what I want to explore with the audience is not death.
You don't want to be the cause of any death.
I don't want to be the cause of any death.
Let's just not kill anybody, and then we'll be a success.
If I don't kill anybody on the show, I'm going to consider it a success. But, really, I want to make sure that that we lighten up business. Business and life are too serious, and really, at the end of the day, it's about being it's about generating relationships with people. It's about loving what you do, and that's kind of what I hope to achieve here.
Making it a little lighthearted.
Making it a little lighthearted.
That's why it's called funny business.
That's why it's called funny business. In general, I think business is too stiff. Business is too serious, and people should lighten up, because there's a lot more to life, than the bottom line. It's easy for me to say that when I don't make any money. So, but I understand why people get so stressed out about that kind of stuff. But I think, in my experience, at least, in dealing with people who are successful, they look at those kind of failures, and they look at things as learning opportunities and not as reasons to become crazy about something.
Yeah, the more you fail, the less you care, and I think that's better.
Absolutely.
Not caring about anything
is great. And, moreover, I think anyone that you look at that's ultra successful is that way because they've failed and they've learned from it. You can't appreciate your achievements if you never fail.
Yeah. It's like Prince once said, the ride up front is better when you've been in the back.
Absolutely. And Prince was a known business icon.
Yeah, he's also a creep.
He's also a creep.
I got to well, his social media business is not very good.
Well, okay, so I'm also, I'm into branding, and I would say that his changing of his name every couple of years probably isn't the best way to go about maintaining a consistent brand either.
And you're into social media, right?
Yes, I'm into social media.
And wouldn't you think that it would be good to have the publicity of all your music on YouTube, fans posting it, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I won't pretend to be an expert on the laws behind all that kind of stuff, but I think that I actually, it's interesting. I interviewed a guy who's a producer for Pitbull. He was in the studio, and Pitbull recorded one of his songs in a hotel room. Just, and it was like one of his number one hits. The song is escaping me, but I was talking to this guy, and he was talking about how they're trying to capture a lot of content that's like backstage stuff. Just like what Pitbull or other artists are, what they're doing on their tour bus, what they're doing, giving private concerts, or just when they're in the writing process. And, today people are so focused on the finished product, and there's so much technology that goes into producing music and video and everything, that it's sort of refreshing to see the human side of things, which kind of goes back to what I was talking about before, is that the work they were doing, and Pitbull had this whole app that he created where it was, him, it was just videos of him and things that behind the scenes that you wouldn't really see. You've seen it with the success of the movies like Beyonce has coming out, and Justin Bieber, and I think the Jonas Brothers had one, and Katy Perry had one.
The Michael Jackson movie, which obviously had its own set of,
of standards and circumstances, exactly is the right word. But people are eating that stuff up, because they want to connect with humans in a day where everything is driven by technology.
They want to see the other side of someone that you don't normally see.
Absolutely. And it's refreshing to see somebody as a person. It goes back to that thing of being relatable. You connect with somebody, you feel more in touch with them when you can look at them as a human and not as an untouchable celebrity,
Yeah.
And again, that's what I'm trying to bring across here, and with this show is helping people find the way to connect their human side and their personal side with business, with their social relationships, to make them more approachable and to have more success in both their professional and interpersonal relationships.
It's a noble mission.
It is a noble mission.
Say.
Yeah, it's a noble mission. And, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. If nobody listens to it, then at the very least, I'll be able to tell people that I have my own radio show.
Oh, yeah.
Which,
tell girls.
Yeah, tell girls. I do have a girlfriend at the moment.
Oh, okay.
She might be the only one that listens to it. So I have to say that in case I get myself in trouble. But no, I'm very excited. I actually, this morning I spoke to a group of students at Lesley University over in Cambridge, and the topic was on personal branding. And, they were really engaged, and we got into some points that were really interesting, things that fire me up. That, when I deal with people that are way more successful than me all the time. And I ask them, can you create this ebook, or can you write a blog post for me? Or, would you want to be on even ask them to be on a radio show or in a video. And by and large, the most ridiculous answer, I hear it so often, is I have nothing to say, or I can't contribute anything. And it's like, these people have achieved massive success in their industry, or whatever they're trying to, whatever their chosen path is. But people don't give themselves enough credit for how smart they are, or, what they have to offer. As much as people in this world of social media, everything's pushed out and they're like, here's what I ate this morning and all that kind of stuff. People still don't see themselves as leaders or experts. And, the fact is that I can learn something from everybody, and I like to think that people can learn something from me too. So, that's the other concept that I try to push, is that, you can be an expert in something. You can achieve massive success just by recognizing that you have something to offer and being willing to put yourself out there.
Yeah, you also kind of have to grab that information out of them through the form of an interview.
Absolutely.
Which you're going to be doing interviews with your guests.
Yeah, and I already have a bunch of guests lined up. I've had the ability, and it's been great to work with Dan Shaw-Bell, who's a personal branding expert and a career expert. He's about getting ready to launch his second book, so we're going to have him on to talk about how to advance in the workplace. Another one of my friends is a dating coach, and he talks a lot about how to similarly how to improve your ability to to communicate with the members of the opposite sex or someone that you might be interested in. So that'll be a fun segment. I have friends in all sorts of industries that I'm trying to bring on, and we'll interview them. And basically, this show is a conversation that I have all the time anyway. This is like me hanging out with my friends. And we talk about these things all the time, and it's just going to be fantastic to share it with a potential audience. And I do hope that people listen and find some value in it.
Please listen, people. With that, we're going to be taking a break. Here's some music for your ears.
Funny how you turned red when I first said, let's join the dead. Funny.
Welcome back to Funny Business on the Business Network here on unregularradio.com. Channel 3, the purple button, business. This is all about business, but lately I've been hearing a lot of serious business on this channel. I thought this was supposed to be funny business.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're trying to get across here, Rob. We're trying to lighten up the mood here, and that's how I try to live. And sometimes it gets me in trouble at work, I guess, but I think that's how everyone should have a little bit of comedy in their day.
So how do you intend to bring the comedy to these serious sallies?
Well, I think that it starts by just being loosening up a little bit. I mean, in my job and when I work with people, there's a fine line between being unprofessional and being and just being someone that's fun to work with and to be on a team with, and I will get my work done. I'm if I'm on a deadline, I'll make sure to honor that. But beyond that, I don't see why people have to be so strict and so so uptight all the time, because at the end of the day, nobody dies, like we said before.
Yeah. Well, someone like me who does tend to use comedy a lot to communicate with people, I think in like a business setting like this, a lot of the times I refrain from doing it because I'm never really sure what the line is, like what you're not supposed to joke about in the business area.
Yeah,
what you should joke about in the business area.
It's and it is tough. And when I was speaking earlier today, actually, I got that question. It's like if you say something and then you're how do you recover from it if it is something that's offensive? And to be quite honest with you, in the world of business, it's tough. Sometimes you can't recover. You have to be much more careful about what you say. And me, when I'm on stage, the things I say are not. It's not nearly the same as when I'm in a meeting with somebody and I try to lighten the mood a little bit.
Do you do edgier comedy or?
So yeah, sometimes. I mean, it's improv, So there's sometimes I'll say something and then I'm like, what the hell did I just? Where did that come from? Or I wish I didn't say that.
That happens a lot on radio too.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I mean, hopefully not for me here, but at least here we can edit it. Right?
Yeah, it's pre-recorded, so yeah. We just told them, by the way.
Yeah,
they probably thought this was all live.
Oh man! Well, we can edit that out anyway too.
Yeah, we can.
They won't know that we had this conversation.
Too much work.
Yeah.
So, but how'd you get started in comedy? Did you just were you a funny kid?
Well, I mean, who knows? I thought I was. I like to have fun. I started in comedy doing stand-up, and I was never really good at it. But I started doing stand-up when I was in college, and right after I graduated from college, just going to open mics around the city. And I met a bunch of great people and made connections that way with other comedians who were much more talented than me. And I did that for a couple years on and off, and then eventually a friend of mine, Kenny, who's in business, he wanted to take an improv class over at the Improv Asylum in the North End, and he asked me if I wanted to do it with him, which I was like, why not? I've done a lot of weird things. I took hip hop dancing classes for a little while.
Really?
I took a modeling class one time, which I've always been told I had a perfect face for radio.
They can teach you how to be a model?
Yeah, it's like the runway walk and like how to do auditions for modeling things. Look, it was I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, Rob.
They teach you how to act like a model.
They teach you how to act like a model, right. But I've done a lot of weird things. Point is, if my friends ask me to do something, the answer is generally yes, which I probably shouldn't say on the radio. So I took a class in Improv Asylum with my buddy ended up loving it, going through the whole program, and now I perform there in the house teams, which is like, the amateur kind of fun night on Tuesday nights. And I started recently with a group of my friends, a kind of professional group called What Up Doe, and we perform around the city, wherever people will have us. And I just love it. It's like my stress relief. It's my passion. It's what gets me through the day. And I've been doing it now for improv for over a year and a half, and honestly, best thing I've ever done. So it's transcended into other parts of my life.
So you gave up on stand-up?
I have not done stand-up in a long time. Yeah, like I said, I was never really that great at it. Yeah. Improv for some reason is easier for me, and some people would say that they can't do improv and that stand-up is better for them. But for me, just having to write, having to do the open mics over and over again, and be in bars and there's not that many people there. It's a grind, man. Stand-up's a grind, and the people who do it well, I have all the respect in the world for, because it's so tough. But in Boston especially, the community is fantastic, and when I first started doing it, I thought, okay, it's going to be a bunch of people trying to be funnier than me, trying to beat me down, and it's not the case at all. There's people. I remember coming off doing a set, and somebody would come up to me and say, "Hey, that joke you told, it was good, but you should try doing it this way." They didn't have to do that, but it was just, it's a welcoming community. But that's how I kind of got started in that, and like I said, it transcended into all the other areas of my life in terms of my social relationships, my networking ability, all that kind of stuff.
What are the overlapping skills between being a comedian and being a business person?
Yeah, well, I mean that's a great question, and that's kind of the basis for this whole show, and it's kind of the new platform that I'm trying to run with, and I'm redoing my website right now, and I'm writing content, and I've sort of dove into this idea that not everyone. I like to tell people everyone should do comedy once, because even if you are terrible at it, which most people are, and I was when I was doing stand up, it makes you a better person, and having that experience of being in front of a crowd and bombing or getting a laugh, it just makes you much more socially aware and able to to get over the fear of dealing with people. So there's a couple things right off the bat that I would say apply to from improv that I take into business. The first being the concept of yes and, which is like the most basic improv standard rule that you learn in the first day of the first level of improv training. The concept of yes and, which is, if you're in a scene with somebody, right, and they come in and they say, "Hey, grandpa," then I am now their grandpa. I mean, I can't change that. I have to. I was endowed as that. I have to adopt it, and that's now my reality. And then I have to take that and build off of it. I can't negate people. So.
Yeah, it would be kind of funny if you went, "No, I'm not your grandpa."
And sometimes,
why are you asking me?
And
that?
Sometimes I do that, and that's kind of like a middle finger to your scene partner when you do that. But it can be funny if it's placed correctly.
It's funny for you.
It's funny for me. Yeah, they might not be too helpful for me in the rest of the scene. Yeah. But in business, there's too much yes, but it's too many egos get in the way sometimes, and people want their idea to be the one that happens, and they're a lot of times they're shut down to the other ideas of people who have different experiences than them, and who can offer something that's different and equally as valuable to them. So that's kind of the first thing, is saying, instead of saying yes but, because I'm in a meeting with somebody, I say, I think this is a good way to do it. Yes, but this is a better way to do it. If you say yes and, or if you make that your mentality, it's, that's a good idea, and we can use this other tactic, build on it, to make it even stronger. Yeah. That's not to say that everything's going to be a good idea, but having that as the lens that you're connecting with people will make you way more a way better teammate. So that's kind of the first thing. Yeah. Then the other thing is that I would say is knowing when to end a scene in comedy is big. And in improv, you know, when you get the biggest laugh, that's when your teammates are supposed to get you out of there, you know, because oftentimes it's not going to get as big again, or it's, you know, you want to get off the stage on a high note so people will remember you as the funniest the funniest group of people. And if you're left out there too long, then that often will fade and you're not remembered as well. So in business, the same thing applies. You know, get in, if you're at a networking event, get in, make a connection with someone, leave them wanting more. You know, if you're at a bar and you're talking to somebody that you're interested in, you know, introduce yourself, get in some good points, make a good connection, and then get out of there. Don't hang on or linger too much, because you want people to want more when you leave. You don't want to overwhelm people. You know, and that's another thing that I've tenet from improv that I've learned that I think is easily applied.
That is important. The way you present yourself and leaving a lasting impression is really important with both businesses, both comedy and business in general.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, in both, that's your downfall, right? I mean, you can make the best presentation, you could make the best joke, but if then you follow that up with something that's not as good, that's not as well prepared, that doesn't, you know, hit as well, then that's all the audience is gonna remember.
Or if you write it out for too long, you become like a Pauly Shore.
Exactly. Especially in comedy, yes.
Yeah.
And you know, you see that in business too. If somebody gets a laugh, they try to ride that, because business is generally a dry subject, and somebody does say something that's humorous, they try to beat it with a stick, and you don't need to. Take the laugh, take the connection, move on, and come back to it later and cultivate it that way.
Yeah, and on the business side of things, a thing like MySpace, that's been around for a long time, they're still doing the same thing. They just recently changed, but now it just looks like a Google Plus ripoff, but you know, like riding through, using the same tactics, you have to learn how to develop and change with the times, as they say.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you on that too. And that's another point is, MySpace is a great example, because MySpace started out as the social network, you know, back in the day, and then it became kind of creepy, like, you know, you'd see people taking photos of themselves in the bathroom mirror. Yeah. That would be the way that most profiles were set up in MySpace, and they've sort of rebranded themselves and adopted a music, a music mentality, and a brand that's derived on helping artists connect with other artists and to get noticed, and that's what they have to do. And quite frankly, I think that the brand of MySpace is stronger than it's been in a long time for that reason. But you know, that's just that one industry. They've learned to adopt that and they're trying to stop being something that they can't compete with anymore.
So at what point would you say you need to realize that you have to change your brand? Like, because sometimes there are situations where the brand obviously needs a change, but the person refuses to change it, and you know, they also don't want to go take a 180. That's right. It's 180, right?
Yeah,
it's not 360, right?
No, 360 would bring them back to where they are now.
Yeah. But yeah, you want to present yourself with the same kind of feel, but a little bit different, different enough for people to recognize there's a difference and there's a reason to go back.
Yeah, no, and that's a fine line, because you see there's stories of, especially, you know, I think of bands again. I think of music where a good band will come out with an album trying to ride the times and, you know, change with the audience trends, and it's a huge flop because people are like, you know, what are you selling out? You know, you want to, and they might just be trying to do the right thing and grow, but oftentimes it can be perceived differently. And in business and comedy, whatever you're trying to do, you have to stay relevant while staying true to yourself and staying consistent with your brand. And that is a difficult thing to do.
Speaking of sellout musicians, maybe we should take a musical break right now. It's been 16 minutes.
Yeah, it's a wonderful transition.
Yeah. So here's some sellout music from some sellout musicians that nobody cares about anymore.
Lying in the park on a beautiful day, sunshine in the grass, and the children play.
Unregularradio.com. You're listening to the Business Channel. I'm sitting here with Bill Connolly of the new show Funny Business. What's going on, Bill?
Not much. I just got to get back into the right state of mind after that intro song.
Oh yeah, that song's really a downer, isn't it? Should have chose something a little more up tempo.
What the listeners can't see is us going through all the musical choices that have the word funny in them.
Oh yeah, it's awful. It's not. It's the least creative thing I've ever done in my life, really. Let's just Google the word funny and lyrics and see what comes up.
Yeah,
and just shove it on the air.
That's essentially what we did, but I think we found a good medium here.
Yeah, some of it fits. Scars on Broadway. Not really. I don't even know who that was before.
We'll make sure to find some more for next week.
Yeah. So anyway, we got the funny part out of you.
We got the funny part, even though it wasn't that funny. But we'll build to that.
Let's talk about the BiZ.
Biz.
Yes.
Business.
How'd you get started in business?
Sure. So my background is as a marketer. I've been working in marketing for an agency in the Boston area for about 3 years now. In my spare time, I've been fortunate enough to do some side work and consulting through my friend Dan, his company that he built, Millennial Branding, as a startup. And like I said, we're going to have him on the show soon. But doing consulting for individuals who are experts, who are trying to become bigger, who are trying to be more well known. These are people in real estate, people in financial services, people in the entertainment business. It's consistently amazing to me how many people who are so successful don't understand how to package themselves. Still, like, they're so smart at what they do, but they don't know how to put themselves out there on the internet, or what they should have on their website. You go to their website and it looks like it was made on I don't know, what was it?
GeoCities?
Yeah, GeoCities, Alta Vista or something. It used to be.
The cursor has snowflakes coming out of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like one of those, and I'm saying, how are these people so successful? But it's just because they're focused on that one thing that they're trying to do. So that's kind of the other business that I'm involved in, and I've learned a lot, and I've been tremendously lucky to interact with some interesting people.
So as a businessman in that field, I'm going to test your knowledge.
Okay.
What would you suggest someone like me would do, an entertainer, to grow my brand?
So an entertainer, I think.
Me specifically.
Yeah. Okay. So you're trying to get some.
I just
advice.
Want some free advice.
You know what I charge for this kind of stuff?
Yeah, well.
It's way over what it's worth anyway, so it doesn't matter. I think for you specifically, you kind of have an edgy brand, and you need to live with that. I mean, before the show started, we were looking at an article that was about Rob's show and the hijinks that he got into, and you need to embrace that. Any publicity is good publicity for a show or for a brand that's kind of that's like yours. The other thing I say to people who are trying to make it in the industry is, and to anybody, is fake it till you make it. Like I said about my show, if nobody listens to this, if I tell somebody I have my own radio show, that's still going to make me look more credible.
Yeah, they're going to think, how could someone have a radio show but no one listens to it?
Exactly.
They would never think, oh, he has no listeners.
And I would never tell them that. Obviously I'm saying it on my show now anyway, but I would never tell them that. It makes me look credible.
Yeah,
similarly for you, and I was looking at your website before, having a professional looking website, having professionally edited or looking videos and audio, that's the one thing that sets people apart. And I interviewed a guy actually who was a producer for he was a producer for an entertainment company, and that was kind of one of the things he said to me, was that because there's so many millions of videos on YouTube and content out there nowadays, the way you have to differentiate yourself is to invest in yourself and make yourself look professional. If you can fake it and look like you know what you're doing, then eventually people are going to believe you. And that's what I tell people, students that I talk to, is that don't underestimate yourself. Just make yourself look the part. Now, that's not to say, you want to trick people or you want to not be good at something, but the way to get ahead quicker in the entertainment business is to have that more official looking persona and to push that out there, and then people will take notice.
In the entertainment business, they call lying branding.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Did you come up with that?
No. Well, yeah, I did. Well, I just thought of that and said it.
Yeah, no.
But I didn't come up with the concept of lying.
Right. Well, no, I've never heard that quote before, but I mean, it's true, and it's lying. Lying's bad in general, but
It's fun, though.
it's fun, and everything could be a lie. It's all how you perceive things. I'm not a fan of lying to people, but I am a fan of when I know that I can do something, positioning myself so that I can get the opportunity. And that's not lying. That's just promoting myself, and making myself look like I can do something that I know I can do.
Exactly.
There's another interesting story. I don't know if you're familiar with the Shark Tank, the TV show on ABC.
I've heard about it recently.
Yeah, so they invest in startups, will go present to these big-time investors. And one of them on there is Barbara Corcoran, who started the Corcoran Group as a real estate agency in New York City. She eventually sold it for like $600 million or something. And the way she got going was she had sold 10 apartments in Manhattan this one year. Very small team, small organization. She didn't know if she was going to be able to keep it open. So she wrote a report that was about the average cost of living in Manhattan. And she used just the small amount of data she had from the few sales she had made to come up with these figures. It wasn't lying, but it wasn't necessarily the most credible source if you really delved into the methodology that she was using. And she sent it to every newspaper, every news outlet in New York City, and they all picked it up. The next thing she did was she heard that Madonna was looking for a house. So she wrote something that was, what would Madonna need in her house? Because she was about to have a child. Well, she got interviewed on television, and they introduced her as the realtor of the stars. She had never met a celebrity. She had never had a celebrity client, but because, they mistakenly figured that she must have to know what Madonna would want in a house. Next thing you know, she's got Richard Gere as a client. She's got all these other celebrities calling her up, and she sort of built herself that way. And that's just one story, but that's really it. It's not lying. It's getting ahead.
Using other people's names is really important too.
Hey, if you can do it, again, you don't want to lie. You don't want to take their personality. You don't want to say something derogatory about somebody. I mean, I'm saying you don't want to use that to get ahead. But I mean, connecting with someone else's brand or using it to leverage your own material, especially in entertainment, is. That's the name of the game.
It is. True. So, but I think one of the most important things is, like you were saying before, go to your strengths, not your weaknesses.
Yeah.
Accentuating your strengths and hiding your weaknesses is very important too.
I'm a huge proponent of that. I mean, for me personally in business, I'm not technical at all. I'm horrible with technology. I mean, I can't code anything. I can't build a website. I can't.
So stay away from it.
Stay away from it. And that's what I'm trying to do here is talk about communication, networking. That's what I am good at. Yeah. I'm good at talking for an hour with you, at this desk. I'm not good at trying to, and that's not to say if you want to go out and learn how to code and you don't know how to, sure, go ahead. But if you want to really get ahead, you don't need to worry about the things you're bad at. Focus on the things that you're good at and really drive those home. Yeah. Like you said, accentuate your strengths and hide your weaknesses. That's really what it's about.
If you've never stepped foot on a football field before, technically you're undefeated.
Absolutely.
So perception is reality too.
Perception is, you're saying all the buzzwords here. I know. I have in my notes.
Buzz phrases.
Yeah. Perception is reality. And that's what it goes back to too, if you can make people think that you're the real deal, then you are the real deal. You can, I forget the saying or who said it, but you take something out of a container, you can almost never put it back in again. So once somebody thinks something about you, or once your name is out there, it's never going to go away. Yeah. You can cater it and you can sort of drive your brand towards where you want to go, but once you use something to get ahead, you're there, and
unless you do something drastic to really change that perception.
Exactly. And again, and that's where it goes back to the lying and that whole deal. It takes a lifetime to build trust, and it takes a second to destroy it, and that's not my quote. I've heard that a million times from people, but it's true. Once you burn a bridge or break a relationship, to get it back is nearly impossible, if not, it's extremely difficult, if not impossible.
What about creating the familiarity with the people that you're doing business with and the audience too? Like, coming up with things you both have in common is really important in both of those areas.
And the relatability,
and building a relationship off of those things.
Building the relationship off that. Although, and one of the things, and again, this goes back to the connection of comedy, right? So one of the things I hate is when you're at a bar, you're at a networking event, and you talk to somebody and they say, "Oh, hi, what's your name? Where are you from? What do you do?" That mundane, string of conversation that you have with everyone you meet. I try to stay away from that as much as possible. I meet somebody, I'm like, "Hey, what are your dreams? Where do you want to do in 5 years? What, where's the coolest place you've been?" Asking random questions and really being interested in what they have to say is so different that it will make me memorable. And it makes other people memorable when they do it to me. You have so many conversations, you meet so many people. You have to be a little bit different so that people will remember you in a good way. But that's the connection relating to comedy. You were talking about sales earlier. That's the number one sales tactic, right? Is like, I had a customer yesterday. It was just like you, and they bought this thing that I'm trying to get you to buy because of this. That's the classic sales thing, because if something's relatable, people can connect to it.
What's your name? Maud? That's my mother's name.
That's my mother's name. Yeah, that's it's simple as that. You might be able to connect with somebody.
Yeah, connections are important. Communication skills and connecting. And we're connected right now because we're on the internet radio.
We are on the UR Business Network.
Technically radio. You can hear this without connections if you're using a phone.
Right? 3G.
That's kind of connected, isn't it, though? Somewhere?
Oh, everyone's connected everywhere, Rob.
We're all connected. It's connections.
That's today.
On Funny Business. I almost said the Funny Business.
The Funny Business.
This show is going to be every Wednesday at 1 p.m., on this stream right here that you're listening to at this very moment. This is the first episode. Hopefully of many.
Hopefully of many. I think it was okay today. I think we got through it. Rob,
it's better than most first episodes.
Well, I'll take that as long as I'm not the worst.
No, yeah, well, being the worst would set you apart.
I guess that would set me apart, but
you could even call it, "Hey, this is the worst radio show in the world," and people would be like, "What?" They'd listen to it.
It would be difficult to achieve that. Yeah, that's branding. No, I'm really excited about it. Like I said before, I'm thinking up some segments. We're gonna do a combination of improv. And I'm going to have, my improv friends in. I'm going to have some business people in. The focus of the show is going to be on communication and on building soft skills and on becoming a better networker, a better partner, a better relationship, or a better at relationships, whether it's your wife or your boyfriend or your business, your colleague. We're going to have some fun, and I know I'm very excited about the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to becoming a part of the UR network.
Just to return the favor of you giving me some advice, how about I come up with the tagline for your show?
I love it.
I think the tagline of this show is, because it's true, this is the funniest show about business on the UR Business Network.
I mean, it's a bit long, probably.
It's true though,
but I think hopefully it's true.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's true.
It has to be true. It's the only show about business that's funny on.
I like it.
Funny business anyway.
Let's roll with it.
Let's roll it.
With that in mind, we're gonna record this entire episode.
It's probably a good idea if we're gonna make it funny. Anyway, so next week at 1 p.m. Wednesday, 1 p.m. That's 1 p.m. Eastern for those of you. California people.
Yep.
It's not going to be
people in Asia.
Yeah. Asia. What's their time zone?
I don't know, but they got to adjust because I'm sure there'll be a lot of listeners from From
They might even listen to it at night, right?
that they're on prime time.
Yeah.
Actually, in England, on prime time.
Wow.
So that's the benefit of the
That's
internet radio.
First radio show, and you're already prime time.
I'm already prime time.
Think about
in
that.
England.
Anyway, so let's wrap this up now. Any closing statement?
Closing statement is I'm glad we got this first one out of the way. It's the first time I've done a radio show, and I'm very excited about it. I want to thank Rob for being on here and kind of pushing me through. Next week I'm going to have a guest on, which I will, I guess, not say. I want to tease it, So will be something interesting. You won't just hear me talking for an hour. And we're gonna get involved and try to have some fun, and I hope that you'll listen and stay with us here.
Let's get involved next week, Wednesday, 1 p.m. on the UR Business Network. You're listening to the Business Channel on regularradio.com.